Our dad. It is a great pleasure to nominate our father, Willie Revish, for the Solomon Wisdom. Willie Revish is the smartest man, bar none, I have ever met. If my father was still living, he would never submit to receiving an award such as this prestigious Solomon Wisdom Award. So that being said, we the Revish siblings feel that a humble Christian person such as our father should be honored.
That's right. That's right.
This is a man who was the eldest of 21 siblings,
Wow.
who had to leave school at an early age to help support his family in Pinckensville, Mississippi, before the family eventually moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
All right.
Willie Revish was born Monday, December 5th, 1921, in Pinckensville, Mississippi. His parents, the late Jesse and Carol Revish, had 9 sons and 12 daughters, of which 2 sons and 4 daughters are still living.
Amen.
While growing up in rural Mississippi, life was hard for Willie and his family because his parents were sharecroppers. Can I get an amen on that?
Amen. Preach, brother.
Every morning before going to his one-room school, he had to feed the farm animals, and when he returned, he had to help his father in the field. Although Willie and his family did not have many material items, he told us they had God
That's it.
and love in his home.
That's it.
As mentioned earlier, Willie left school after completing the 3rd grade to help support his parents' growing family. The family eventually moved to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, when Willie was approximately 16 or 17. After Japan attacked the U.S. on December 7, 1941, Willie enlisted in the United States Army at the age of 20. After completing basic training, back then it was called tech school, we call it specialized training, he became a military MP in the Negro Army, Negro Corps. Although Willie did not see combat during World War II, his unit deployed to New Guinea, and they were preparing to invade Japan before Japan surrendered on September 2, 1945. Willie returned to Camp Lee, later renamed Fort Lee, and met the love of his life, Viola Mae Graves, married, and was honorably discharged. Willie and Viola settled in Petersburg and started their family. In 1951, the U.S. Army recalled Willie to drive trucks, and he drove for the Red Ball Express in Korea. Willie was honorably discharged from the United States Army in 1953, and he returned to Petersburg. Willie returned to his civil service job at Fort Lee until he retired in 1973. While at Fort Lee, 1959 or 60, Willie Revish, Reverend James Duggar, Mr. Albert Branch, and Mr. Lacewell noticed a young Caucasian who had recently started working with them, going to the Fort Lee Credit Union and secure a loan. After questioning their co-workers, the 4 proud men who had been working at Fort Lee for approximately 67 years went into the credit union, and they became the first blacks to secure a loan. I think that says amen. In 1960, as our family expanded, now at 4 sons and 2 daughters, Willie, Mr. Burton, Nick Hayes, Mr. Walter Williams, Mr. James Thomas, Mr. George Jefferson, Mr. Herbert Peterson, Mr. Philip Lindsay, Mr. Bernie Branch, and Reverend Dick Glenn built a baseball field on Kirkham Street, which was called the Kirkham Street Parade, for the children in the neighborhood, such as Stanley and Kenny Lee, Fred Pender, Ron Roachbug Bolton, Ronnie Peterson, Black Snake, and many more, which was located on the Delectable Heights. Also during the early 60s, Willie and many men from above and their spouses and many citizens marched many days down Sycamore and Washington Street to integrate McKellar, the Bluebird Theater, Trailway Bus Station, and many more. Willie would always tell his children and anyone he encountered, you can. So stop saying you can't.
All right.
Knowing he did not have the opportunity to complete school, he believed in education for everyone he encountered. Even though some of his 7 children chose other institutions of higher learning other than Virginia State, they knew he was always there for them. In 1966, Russell Revish, our oldest, brother, graduated from Peabody. After graduating, he enrolled into Virginia State College in the fall of 1966. After completing 1 year at Virginia State College at the time, he was drafted to the military in June of 1967. Russell served with distinction as a combat medic in Vietnam, the 25th Infantry Division, until he was honorably discharged in 1969. Russell returned to Petersburg and was hired at Kenner Army Hospital as an operating room tech, where he stayed until his death in 1995. In 1996, Kenner Army later renamed the second floor the Russell Revish Wing. Ozenetta Revish Bowman, the second child, graduated from Peabody High School in 1967. After graduating, she left Virginia to attend the Philadelphia Technical Institute in Germantown for data entry. Ozen used those acquired skills during her 30-plus years of employment working for local, state, and federal agencies in Pennsylvania and Virginia before retiring. Willie Revish, the third born, also attended Virginia State College from 1969 to 72. During the summer of 1972, Willie enlisted into the United States military, serving in Europe. After leaving the military in 1975, Willie completed the respiratory training with St. Mary's Hospital and became a respiratory therapist. Virgil Revish, the fourth one, also attended Virginia State from 1971 to 1975. Virgil enlisted in the military in 1976. After serving honorably, he left the military in 1980. From 1980 to 1984, Virgil taught in the Fairfax School Division in Fairfax, Virginia. In the fall of 1984, Virgil returned to Petersburg and secured employment from 1984 to 1988 with the Pocahontas Wastewater Treatment Plant. After an injury, he retired and began volunteering in the Petersburg-Chesterfield school system until 2013. In 1993 to 1999, Virgil and Larry Brown developed a program which was called a School Watch, where adults volunteered and mentored students in the Petersburg school system. Izone Revish Murphy, the fifth born, began her career while still in Petersburg High School. She began working for the First Baptist Church while still in junior high school. When she graduated from PHS in 1971, she continued to work at Petersburg Social Service and continued her education at John Tyler Community College and BCU. Izone considered the family organizer.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
If an event was planned or held for the family, church, or neighborhood, you know she would be the major contributor. Also, because of her expertise and knowledge of the Medicaid and Medicare federal policies, many underserved and less privileged citizens in the Tri-City areas would seek her out, and when she worked at Petersburg Social Services. After retiring from Petersburg Social Services, she continued to give back to the Tri-Cities by working with an adult health care service organization, Rama, the sixth. Graduated from PHS in 75. Prior to graduating, I participated with Virginia State Upward Bound. Anybody in here participate in Upward Bound? Great program, all right. My junior year. After graduating, I attended Virginia State as well for one semester before enlisting in the U.S. Army from 1976 to 1979. After leaving the military, I continued my education at Trent State University, where I was commissioned as the second lieutenant in the United States Army in the Medical Service Corps in 1983. After being honorably discharged, I returned to Petersburg, where I began working with the Virginia Department of Corrections, Probation Department, from 1996 to present. I'm presently in Holland. Also during this time period, I joined the Petersburg Lunch Kiwanis Club, 1996 until present, whereas in 1999, I became the first African American to hold the position of president. Lastly, Stacy Revish Gold, the seventh born, graduated from PHS in 1980. Known as Mom, or Miss Stacey Adams, she attended Norfolk State University. After graduating from Norfolk State University, she began her career with the federal government in the Tidewater area. She later matriculated to the Maryland area, where she continued to work initially for the federal government and later for Maryland School Division, and now presently for a private organization. Stacy is the sole owner of Stacy's Food Catering Company, where many of her dishes have been served in the DMV area. They call it up there in Northern Virginia DMV. I have to get them straight. We're part of the DMV as well. Also, you can see the Revish siblings from above are all servant leaders. And this is a direct testament of Willie Revish. Daddy was also big on holding himself and everyone accountable. Richard Mabel and James Folk knew if Willie and Butch was doing something wrong, they would all be held accountable for their actions as well. When Vernell Ganaway wanted to hang out with Willie and Nelson and the twins, Daddy told Vernell to do the right thing by Gail. And Vernell, your cat's been married how long now? 47. 47 years. Let's get my hand on that. When Daddy was hired at Texaco Travel Car Center as a security guard, many days, Mary McLean, Tanisha Amos, and my sister Ozzy went to call in to Texaco to say it was hazardous weather. But because Daddy held everybody accountable, they knew he was going to go to work, so they had to go as well. Because Daddy was a man of God, he would always say, God is first. Family is second, and everything else is next. Daddy was a long-standing member of First Baptist Church, Harrison Street, Petersburg, Virginia. He could be seen every Sunday up front, and he was considered one of the top prayer warriors in the church. Other than being a
Nice.